Welcome back to the Trip Sitting podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Fungi. Fungi uses kanna, which is a succulent found in South Africa, known for its mood enhancing, stress relieving, and euphoria inducing properties, sometimes referred to as nature's MDMA, but it is completely legal. They've blended this kanna in some really, really incredible products, such as chocolates, fruit chews, and tinctures. It's something that you could take at the beginning of the day. It helps to open the heart, or you could take it during a night out. If you don't want to drink alcohol or engage with any other substances, it's really good for helping you socialize and stay open and energized throughout a night like that. So be sure to grab those products at the link in the footnotes of this podcast and use the code TRIPSITTING for 15% off your order. Once again, use the link in the footnotes of the podcast and use code TRIPSITTING for 15% off your order of Fungi products. Make sure that you are following the Trip Sitting podcast on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on, and give us a rating if you feel called to do so that way we can please the algorithm gods and get in front of more viewers. And also make sure that you are following us on social media at _tripsitting_. Now, today's guest is a master of vibes. He is a powerhouse in the conscious music scene, known for his unique fusion of electronic and world music. He's performed at iconic festivals like Lightning in a Bottle and Envision. He's got over 100 million streams on Spotify. So get ready to dive into the heart of his creative process and the deeper vibrations behind the music. We are joined by Equanimous.
I meditate with my eyes open. I'm weird like that. So I just sometimes my eyes are just open.
Have you always meditated with your eyes open?
No.
Is that just like a new thing?
No, probably like the last like 8 years.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I do Vipassana. And so like once you practice enough where you're aware of your whole entire system all the time, then I feel like the next kind of step in that is to be aware of your system while you're engaging in the outside world. And so for that, you need your eyes open, or else you're in the inside world.
Damn.
So, yeah.
That takes a lot of skill for sure. Something that I've imagined you've probably had to cultivate over a long period of time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know if it's skill. It just feels like I don't feel like it's like hard. It's just practice. So
Yeah.
it's like the same thing. It's like, it would be like if I was like, do you have skill at like speaking English? You'd be like, I mean, I guess, but like you're better than you are now when you started as a baby.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
very
it
true.
was like that. It wasn't like I had to do homework
Hmm.
and then I got to learn how to do it. There wasn't like a goal of mine.
Yeah.
It just like happened from doing it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like it almost kind of makes me think like the goal, like a lot of people who are, I think, getting into mindfulness or meditation, there's like the goal of meditation is to like be present and do these things and, maybe be more productive at work or whatever it is. But like meditation is the goal essentially. Like it's
Right.
just being
It's
there.
safe.
Like, you can't be doing it for a purpose. You just have to be doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
That's,
I guess you can be doing meditation for a purpose.
yeah.
Like you can get into it that way.
Hmm.
But it is, I agree with you. It's like it's a way of being.
Yeah. 100%. When did your like spiritual journey start? Like, have you always considered yourself a spiritual person, or was there
Yeah, I
like
think so.
a thing?
I think, there was a time where my spiritual ego became more important than my like material ego.
Hmm.
And I think that once my ego got more gratitude, got more what's the word? Like got more gratification from being rewarded spiritually than materially, is when my spiritual journey started. So, is when it's like really took off more. So for example, like when I was a kid, like I used to look up at the stars and, even the stars in my ceiling and be like, I wonder what's up there. And, that, all that, like there must be some more to life, like at a very early age. But it wasn't until my ego really got to feel the rewards of being, more evolved spiritually or more further along in my path. For example, in college, we would kind of transition more in college. So I'll say, like, at the beginning of college, if I went out with my friends, drank, got drunk, had a great time, slept with a girl, it was a great night. And that was a win. You know what I'm talking about too. And it felt great. And my ego was like, this feels good. All your bills after, like, yeah, let's go, let's go. You play, wake up, eat some food, and next day you go play some basketball, smoke weed, whatever. Like, and it's like, you did it. You won life. Right. And of course, doing that enough, it gets to be a little less gratifying and less rewarding. And then, and then I was introduced to, through some substances, but also through just reading like Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, introduced to like the feeling of, once I felt myself as the watcher, I was like, oh, whoa, this is cool. And then I started getting feedback from my friends like, whoa, that is cool. Then that started to outweigh the other stuff.
Yeah. Like
And
the external versus
yeah.
the internal, realizing that like I'm not going to find whatever it is that I'm looking for from looking outside myself. It has to be
Well, no, no,
inside.
no. I would say I would actually say that's like the core of the lesson. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say no, no. I would say at that time, like I still was being more spiritual, quote
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, because of the external,
Mm.
you know, um, enlightenedness I was getting, or the feedback. Oh my God, look at how cool he is. He's enlightened, or whatever. And so I think it still was, a part of my ego, which is fine because ego is natural and it's healthy as long as you have a good relationship with it. But no, it wasn't until many years later, probably when I did the Vipassana, where I went inside. So all of
Mm-hmm.
that was still external. Even when I had these experiences of like feeling like I was nothingness and being nothing, that experience. I don't know if you've had that, but
I have.
yeah, you know what's up. So like that's very internal, but like unless you're committing yourself to living in that state all the time, typically what happens is we come out of it, we go back in for a second, we come out, it's a practice. And so, um, yeah, I would say that as well, and kind of transitioning from the external validation to the internal validation, like you were saying. And then the internal validation becomes, the ego starts to say, oh my God, look at how cool I am. I don't need the external. And then the
Mm.
ego gets boosted that way.
Yeah.
And so, I think that was the process of my spiritual journey as far as it comes to like, self-awareness and that kind of thing.
When you got introduced to Vipassana, was that through like a 10-day silent
Yeah, I did a
meditation
10
retreat?
day.
Okay.
I'd never heard the
Yeah.
word Equanimous before. I learned it in the Vipassana.
Mm.
I went through my own process of becoming Equanimous, and still like, sometimes on my sets I'll play Goenka's voice where he's like, be aware and so also remain equanimous. Aware and equanimous. Have you done a 10 day?
No, I haven't. I've got some friends that have.
Oh, they're intense.
Yeah. They sound very, very intense. Right now my I'd say my like thing that I do that I think has deepened my practice the most is working with ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And that was actually the first time that I heard of Vipassana, was because somebody that was there
Oh,
with me told me that they had done Vipassana, and
what
that
kind of
eventually led them
tradition
to.
do you have? Like a church you go to, or is it more just like trying all different kinds of?
I've tried a couple different kinds. Like the first time was Shipibo, where I went to Iquitos, and found like a really nice retreat center, and it was, I mean, that it kind of blew the lid off of everything I thought I was, and I had experimented with substances at that point and thought that I was doing things and like thought that I had like a pretty good grasp on who I was and what was going on here. And it kind of just showed me it's like, nah, like you are just beginning to scratch the surface, and it humbled the fuck out of me.
Had you done 5-MeO before that?
No, I still haven't actually done 5-MeO.
Gotcha.
Um, that's one that like it calls to me a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's not like it's not the time.
Yeah. No, I don't.
And I understand that's
I've
not the
only
time.
done ayahuasca once in like 8 years. I mean, I did it a lot more before that, but
Hmm.
I haven't done that in a minute. It's been a minute since.
How how have psychedelics kind of shaped your musical growth and then also like personal growth since you started your relationship with those substances?
Yeah, so like at the beginning, it was huge, right? Because I was getting all these like drastic differences from reality to being on medicine. Now when I take a medicine, there's not that much of a difference. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
difference, but not that much. I'm not taking enough to like, I'm either microdosing or just taking like a full dose. I'm not really macrodosing.
Hmm.
Um, and so there hasn't been like too much of a difference. There is, but not like it used to be. It used
Hmm.
to be, like, oh my God, this is a new reality. And I gotta all these things. And like, yeah, of course I made, some brilliant songs from that space. But, once I did a boga, I kind of just stopped trying to like trip.
Yeah.
It was like enough. I'm like, all right, I got what I needed. Spirit was like, you got to stop trying to heal and you got to just do your dharma. And by doing your dharma, you'll heal through joy
Yeah.
and all these great things. But I was like chasing the up leveling. How do we up level Nate? How do we up level Equanimous? How do we up level me? And what I really feel like I by the end of chasing all the medicines and after the iboga, just kind of it was like, oh, that's actually not the right way to even think about it. Just do your dharma, like align with your dharma. There's a path for you. Get on it. And that's sort of when Equanimous started to, make moves.
When was that if we were to put that on a timeline?
That was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. Early 2000, like the very beginning,
Hmm.
I believe. Yeah. Could have been 2018, but I think it might have been 2008. It was either 2017 or 18.
Were you already making music at that time?
Yeah. I had started Equanimous, but I had like
Mhm.
only like a couple releases.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like nothing was really happening yet.
So when did your musical journey start? Like going way back, I assume.
Out of the womb,
Yeah.
when I was a 2 year old, I was playing drums on trees and playing with bands and, you know, started early. My parents were taking me to concerts when I was in the womb. I feel very blessed and grateful for my parents. Always music. There's videos of me as a little kid playing music. It's just always.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took like maybe like a 3 year period off.
Hmm.
My guess would be from maybe when I was like 7 to 10 for basketball. But then after that, I just went right back into music. And I still play basketball, but those 3 years I really needed to focus on my game.
Did you know that like music was something you wanted to make a career out of, and that was something that you would like eventually do? Like, was that a goal when you started, or did it happen as
It
you
was.
progressed as a person?
I think my parents sort of made me feel like my whole family, I love them all, but they sort of made me feel like it was unrealistic.
Mm.
And so I always kind of thought it would just be a hobby. Like, oh, maybe they were like, oh, we could do sound for movies, but to like be an artist was kind of off the table. And then when I was in college, I made a song and it like hit a little bit of college radio and it did all right. And it wasn't my vibe at all in terms of the music I wanted to be putting out. But it showed me enough to be like, whoa, you could like maybe do this. And then I was in school. I used to live with Drew Taggart from the Chainsmokers, and he really did it. And then I was like, oh damn, well if he can do it, I can do it. So now I'm doing it.
Yeah. Did you have any like odd jobs or other things that you
Yeah.
did in the meantime that was supporting that?
Yeah. I mean, I worked at like an herb shop for probably about almost a year. I worked at a guitar store for a few months. I taught music lessons for like 7 years. I had a mobile app company with some people who worked with me in India. I had a coconut oil business for flavored organic coconut oil for oil pulling. And I gambled very successfully, which is how I supported most of my life until being Equanimous. I stopped. I don't think it's a good vibration, but I bet on sports tournaments, and I once won $120,000 overnight in like a fantasy football tournament.
Jesus
And
Christ.
that's how I supported a lot of my life until music kind of did it for me.
Yeah.
Not
Damn.
recommending it, just done
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a little bit of luck
Yeah.
to get people to the places that they need to be.
Yeah.
Um, so you're also the founder of High Vibe Records.
Yep.
What was the kind of like the inspiration behind that project, and I guess like what is the goal and mission of High Vibe Records?
Yeah. So, I could speak a lot on that, but I'll just kind of sum up and say that my own personal mission is bringing consciousness to the party and bringing party to consciousness, to consciousness and to awaken and up level the planet through, living from a healthy heart, healing, joy, all that. High Vibe Records is just an extension of that. I feel like High Vibe Records is a place where people can come to listen to great music, where it's safe. When I say where it's safe, I mean like the lyrics are going to be uplifting. They're not going to be negative affirmations. They'll be positive affirmations. They'll be good for you. And that's just high vibe music. It's good music, and so it's just part of the movement. We're doing our best to spread and share those songs, and we hope that it brings joy to people's lives.
That's beautiful. Your music, absolutely, and like I can just from like listening to it myself. I discovered you honestly probably about like a year ago, to be honest, and
Cool.
it was at I saw you at Dream Rocks opening up
Oh,
for
sweet.
LS Dream,
Oh yeah.
and it was just like again on like most of the times I'm not paying too much attention to the opening acts, and I remember being there and listening to you and feeling like this sense of like upliftedness and like energy and like community within what you were doing, and again like it had this beautiful energy to it.
Thank you so much.
So like how do you think that sounds and vibration like influence people's spiritual experiences and personal growth?
Oh, I mean, it's everything. It's so much. I mean, it's they are codes. They are health codes. Sound is a health code. Frequency is what we are made of. The different vibrations. We are vibrations vibrating. That's it. So you give good vibrations vibrating other good vibrations, they're going to vibrate good. If you give them bad vibrations, they'll vibrate bad. It's that simple, I think. And so, it's like if I were to go, like it might not sound very good or feel great. Now, there might be some people that resonate with that because that's where they're vibrating. So they're like, I feel at home.
Yeah.
Those kind of people typically I don't feel like my music very much. But if you are open enough to receive peaceful, harmonious vibrations, it will bring more peaceful, harmonious vibrations. And for me, of course, like my core is making beautiful music, but I also love having fun. I love the vibration of fun. And so you bring those two things together, it's like beauty and fun. Ooh,
Mm.
I mean, beauty and fun is a strong combo. You know what I'm saying? That's where laughter comes from, orgasm, a lot of great things. And so for me, it's like combining those things, it's like blissful bass. It's, beauty and fun. It's just kind of like all of it. And yeah, spreading that vibe. I feel like if I can just be that vibe and spread that vibe, then you'll feel the vibe and you'll spread the vibe and we'll spread the vibe. And then everything will just take over to be that amazing
Yeah.
vibe.
Are you like consciously incorporating like elements into your music that are specifically meant like, oh, this has more of a healing frequency, or like this one shifts energy for the listeners that are there, like especially those who might be in more like vulnerable or even altered states?
Not yet. I think
Okay.
what I think it happens naturally,
Hmm.
through, the inspiration through the tones of what I'm putting out. Because it's like I'm holding a vibe. I communicate that vibe into the music. Someone else hears that vibe. But when it comes to like specific frequencies, like 528, 431, different things like this, no. But I do plan to get more into it. The 2 reasons I'm not into it right now. One, it's like super illegal and not safe. I feel like, I mean, it's safe, but it's not safe in the sense that if that technology gets into the wrong hands, the universe explodes. So like, I don't know if you've heard of like a Rife machine.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I actually own not a full Rife machine because those are illegal, but I own a type of device that can pretty much emit any frequency. And I tried it one time 8 years ago. I was like, let me mess around with this. Turned it up all the way, and for miles, cats and dogs started barking. I couldn't even hear the tone, and it freaked me out. I was like, oh my God, this is way too powerful. I put it away, haven't touched it since. I think it can be used as a weapon. And I also think it can be used to heal disease, which of course is a massive threat to our medical system and pharmaceutical companies. So I just don't feel like I'm personally ready to go into that space yet. I feel like if I'm going to go into that space, I want to be protected. I want to make sure I have security around me. Or at least I'm living in a secure space where I'm not necessarily traveling a lot, where my family's kind of more grown up, secure, all that kind of stuff. But I feel like if I were to get into it, I might find out some interesting stuff. And I know some people who have cured the incurable diseases with sound frequency and have gotten people knocking on their door being like, hey, buddy, you're not going to do this anymore, or share about this, or your family's done. And I care about my family, even though I don't have one yet, personally. I mean, I have a family, but not. I do plan to have kids someday, hopefully. And so, I don't feel like we're at a position yet where I'm ready to kind of like stand up to that right now.
Yeah, I get that. Now you kind of touched on your name a little bit, but so your name Equanimous, it represents like a state of like mental calmness and balance.
Balance, yeah.
And
Equal non-reactivity.
How do you maintain that balance within your life, especially being a DJ and traveling around so much? Like, how does that play a role in how you go about scheduling and moving and doing everything that you need to do?
Yeah. Well, I view equanimity as sort of the opposite to impulsivity, where equanimity and being equanimous is really about being in a consistent state of non-reactivity. Meaning, if someone tells me some really exciting news, I'm not like, yeah, even though sometimes I do that, but I take in and I can feel my system expanding to be able to receive more excitement. The same thing with fear. If I'm afraid or something, just try to be equanimous. And I can't say I'm like that all the time, but I certainly tend to carry a level of equanimity around with me. And, when it comes to like planning things, I just do it from a place of my system. I do it from a certain type of awareness within my system that if there were to be a level of stress or something come through like this, my system would naturally adjust itself to not react to the stress. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think it comes back to also what we were saying at the beginning. Like it's a practice. Like it's something
It's
that you have
practice.
to practice over time. It's not just
Right.
like you just are.
Right. And then, what happens is eventually real life becomes the practice.
Yeah.
And then I think that's when a human will transition into like they just are, which I don't know if I just am. I think I'm still in the process, but I'm certainly more now than I was before because of the life practice I've had.
Yeah. Of being equanimous.
Right.
Now I want to talk a little bit about your latest album, Multidimensional,
Yeah.
which you released over the summer. Um, I guess what were some of the inspirations behind this project, and like what were some of the elements that you incorporated into it that like got you really excited and kind of made it different from some of your previous projects?
Yeah, you know, it kind of all stemmed from this place of like, who am I as an artist and what genre am I? And I feel like a lot of talent buyers who are booking and my agent wanted to know my manager, all these things. It's like, well, what are we pitching you as? You know, if you're a bass DJ, then a talent buyer is going to know what they're going to get. If you're
Mm-hmm.
down tempo, if you're doing that. And my truth is like, I did the best I could authentically to fit in somewhere, but I don't like that. Like I'm a high vibe artist and I play multi-dimensional, multi-genre music.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And I just need to embrace that. And instead of trying to change who I am, I need me and my team to figure out how to best convey that and communicate that to people who are going to potentially book me. And so multidimensional was kind of this statement of like, this is who I am. I'm multidimensional. Like I am not a genre. I'm multidimensional. And oh my God, so are we as humans. We're multidimensional. And everything is multidimensional, really, depending on how you look at it. And so, you know, that's why the first track is this like beautiful down tempo track. The next one's this heavy bass
Second
bang.
one's heavy fucking bass, and
And
then
this
it goes into
pop
like
track.
piano and
Right, the piano right after. Yeah, exactly. And that's the vibe. I just went with it, you know, and I'm like, all right, this is who I am. And I wanted to embrace that. And, I hope people like it. You know, I hope people, I don't, I would say that like, if you're looking to like put some music on in the background, it's probably not the album for you. But if you want
mm-hmm.
to have a good time and go on a journey, it's a great album for that. So, that's kind of how it all came to be. And I wanted to have different genres on the album. So I made sure I had an on piano track, made sure I had multiple down tempo tracks, an ambient track, a piano track, a hip hop track, a house tracks on there. Um, you know, uh, I just, yeah, I guess I did my best to hit the genres that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are, of course, more genres. You know, there's not a country song or a metal song on the album, but like there's some classical elements which I threw in, and you know, really a lot of what makes me me. That album was just kind of about like, hey, this is the kind of stuff I like, and it's multidimensional.
Yeah, it's cool to listen to, and it's something that like for me when I've listened to it, like it takes me on a journey, and like it's something that like I have to sit down and like consciously listen to it, because like again I know I'm not just gonna throw it on in the background,
Right.
you know, especially if I'm like around people and they're like, oh yo bass, and then like yo what's going on here.
Exactly. And I have music for that, and I have playlists for that. And like, you know, I'm working on a bass EP right now, actually.
Oh nice.
But yeah, a lot of the stuff coming out in the foreseeable future is bass. But that's not just who I am, and I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you can appreciate that journey that I've created there.
For sure. Like, I mean, how do you see your role as an artist, especially like during your live performance, in like creating that holistic experience for somebody who's going to one of your sets?
That's what we're figuring out now, you know, because I know what the energy of it is. I know what the vibration of it is. It's a journey. It's a heavy, you know, beautiful, emotional, melodic, bassy, dancey, fun, all over the place journey. And I'm still in the process with my team of figuring out how best to convey that. You
Hmm.
know, that's kind of like the $1 million question for multi-genre artists is how do you convey who you are? Um, how can you put that in a couple sentences, you know? And we're still crafting and refining that. And I wish I had a better answer for you, but for now, I'll just kind of say, you know, it's a journey. it's,
Yeah.
it's a journey.
The same way that we're going through a journey, you're also going through a journey and figuring that out.
Totally. Yeah, of course. That's my part
Yeah.
of my path. You know, that's part of my inner path. And it's, it has to do with the English language, really. That's what it has to do with. It's finding the English words to use for the sake of expressing a feeling and an experience.
When you found yourself like gaining, let's say like more like mainstream success and some of your music getting like more plays early on, did you find yourself ever kind of getting pigeonholed into that and like wanting to kind of like, okay, how do I reproduce this? How do I do this? Like
Yeah,
dopamine, dopamine, dopamine.
well, I would say that I got pigeonholed in the down tempo space,
Yeah,
which
with
is
Bliss
a
Looper.
horrible space to play live music. I mean,
Yeah.
this is chill. And that's not who I am live anyways. I can do it, works great for sunrise sets and sunsets, and those are the best, and I'll play those all day. But outside of that, you know, it's not really what people want. And so people want to listen to that stuff. So it works well for Spotify. And so I wanted to up my live game.
Hmm.
And so that was an experience I had of how do I leave that space as a live artist and go into, a heavier space. And one of the solutions we did is we took some of my songs and we put them on the Bliss Looper account.
Mm.
And I just started, now I release all my more chill stuff on Bliss Looper. I'll still have some chill stuff on, Equanimous, like that track Hope, and different things that are, I think, more, journey based, you could say. But for the most part, my chill stuff, which I love making chill music, it's also really easy for me.
Hmm.
And so I do that on the Bliss Super channel, and then I do my piano and then Nathaniel Keys channel, and then I do, the more dancey stuff for Equanimous.
Yeah. Something about your live shows that I really like is the fact that like you incorporate beatboxing into it. You'll actually be playing the piano when you're up there, and also you play the fucking djembe,
I do.
which is a sick instrument, and you've got some mad skills, dude.
Have you seen me play the djembe live? We got one of those
I,
djembes or no?
I have not seen it live. I've seen videos of it, and I'm like, dude, I need to do that. I just got a djembe,
It's in the back. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
4 months ago or something like that, and like started playing, and I'd go on Instagram and like find accounts and stuff, and then like I didn't even like you hadn't even posted any djembe videos that I had seen up until that point, and then I saw you, and I was like, oh shit, like you can get real. You can just produce so many more sounds from that than I was learning at the time, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I was trained by some really great players. I mean, I was a drummer, so I wasn't really trained. I didn't even take lessons, but as a djembe person, but player. But there was one man in particular that his name is Cayenne that I actually sat next to in an ayahuasca ceremony one time, and in that ceremony, I learned a lot
Hmm.
from him, and it opened up enough to be able to run with just from that one ceremony. And then I've had other experiences where I've learned things, but it's once you figure out that the djembe can make more than one tone and that you can pitch it by putting your hand down. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Once you realize that,
you like roll your hand on top of it,
yeah,
like
because you can choose the note that way. And I had not never thought I thought djembe, oh, but once you realize you can mute notes and change the pitch of the notes, it opens up a whole new space.
mhm.
Yeah.
is are the drums still like the instrument, or I guess like the element in your music that like you kind of always come back to being a drummer as like what sets the stage, or
I'd
like what
say
lays the foundation?
I'd say the keys, the
Okay.
piano, which to me is, I mean, it's piano is a percussive instrument.
Hmm.
It's like a drum with notes, literally. Like it's a drum with notes, and
Yeah.
so yes, I come back to percussion, but I come back to piano. That's it.
Mm. So when you go into like the creative process of your music, like sitting down to make something, like do you have any personal rituals or kind of like meditations that you do, or things you do
All
to even like channel? Gotcha.
Yeah, I would say every time though when I go into the studio with someone and we're starting a song, we pray.
Mm.
I pray, and I pray basically. This is from someone who grew up as a Jew, not praying at all, and
Same.
yeah, now I uh, you're Jewish as well.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So now I pray, but in a totally different way. I hippie pray. Yeah.
I I very much do too, and that's something that I've only like recently started doing.
Yeah.
Like blessing blessing my, like, just giving thanks for just what's in front of me right now, not in like the dogmatic way or anything like that. And honestly, a really funny story about that. I was once over at a friend's Thanksgiving. His whole family's Christian, and like I was just, visiting. I happened to be in Ohio, and I didn't come back. And his before we started eating, his grandpa was like, we're gonna say grace beforehand, and I'll invite our new guest that we have to say grace instead. He had no idea that I was Jewish, and I was just like a deer in fucking headlights. And literally at the time was just like, it seems like this is something that you do every year, so I appreciate it, but I'm gonna let you take it. Just was like, I had no idea what was going on, but I think if I were put in a situation like that, I would just say what comes from the heart, which is all prayer is. It's just like saying what feels alive and what comes from the heart, and putting out those vibrations into the world, like the same way I was burning the Palo Santo before this. Like,
Yeah, and good for you.
I'm saying a prayer as I'm doing that, clearing away negative energy and just creating space for openness.
I will say it's a great way to connect to family too, because you don't have to be a hippie to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I go back home, I'm definitely the black sheep, whatever, white sheep of the family you want to call it. If I go home, everyone's more kind of by the book. Still great people. I love them all. But, they wouldn't pray before dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But when I come home before the meal, they all look at me, don't even say anything. They just look at me like, come on, do your prayer. And so, or sometimes they'll say, okay, let's pray. And then no one will say anything. They'll be like, Nate, do the
It's your
prayer.
turn.
Yeah. So I just pray for the family, and I always do the prayer, and I like it. It makes me feel, makes me feel like I'm connecting with my family in a way that they can connect with, that I also resonate with, even though we're kind of coming from different angles.
Have you had them attend any of your shows? Like, have they been there? And like,
not a lot.
Yeah.
Not like the big ones yet. No one was at Red Rocks, none of them. Because they live in the East Coast, but they've been to like the 500 person, 300 person, like more intimate kind of conscious festival kind of vibe things.
Yeah. Is it, I don't know, what does it feel like to be able to share that side of yourself with them? Because I imagine that there's a lot of disconnection.
No, my parents still are like, but shouldn't you get a 9 to 5 soon? Like, I got more money than you, my love. Like, they still don't get it. They're like, and I love my parents. They're very smart people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe they're just starting to, but they're still kind of like, at first they were like, yeah, so I don't understand. Like, people play your music on Spotify and you can play a house with that? Like, they just, they didn't get it. Because to them, they grew up in a time where most people don't make it. And if you do, you got to be huge and everybody knows you. And now we're in a time where there's lots of people like me who are not like mega famous, but who can support themselves. And that's like a new breed of musician. I would say I'm probably, I feel very grateful. I'm I might be a little more than like kind of your normal, hey, I'm just paying the bills kind of musician. I think I'm in probably a pretty good situation right now. It just keeps getting better. So I don't know if I'm necessarily the perfect spokesperson for that, but at least I'll say that there are far more successful musicians now than there were 30 years ago because of Spotify.
Yeah. And the ability to, I guess, just release things without having to be attached to a major record label.
Yeah, with social media, all you need is a good Instagram account, TikTok, and Spotify, and you can pretty much make a living. As long as you've got hard work ethic and talent.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have those things, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Now, some of your Instagram posts, you incorporate a lot of humor into them, and you also make fun of, or make light of the spiritual community too. Like,
got it.
Why do you think that's an important element in all of these spiritual practices that we talk about all the time that half the people I talk to are like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. What do you mean? Like, oh,
Like
just how you speak? Yeah, yeah.
just yeah, like, like general, like, oh, like, like even like when I say the word vibrations to
Yeah.
people, some people will still look at me and be like, what are you
Right,
talking about?
right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's important to be humble,
Hmm.
right? And like, I think that, I have a fairly radical view on comedy,
Hmm.
which is that I think that if you really want to be, if you want to treat people equally, right? Like comedy is about not always making fun of people, but a lot of times it is. It's about making fun of the situation, making fun of yourself, making fun of a group of people, whatever it is. And my view is, um, that comedy is an evolution of humanity. In that, like, like, let's talk about, like, for a second, like LGBTQI, like all that stuff, right? At first, like when comedy first started, right, people were saying like gay and all that stuff. Like, oh, you're gay.
Hmm.
Then, of course, the LGBTQI, all that stuff, people are very sensitive. It's, it's less, it's a little more risque to say something like that.
Hmm.
It's less accepted, right? And I think what's sort of happening over time and what will happen over time, if it already hasn't happened, I don't know the comedy world enough, is that once being LGBTQ or whatever is like just normal, it's like, hey,
Hmm.
it's fine, no one cares. Um, they're going to be made fun of equally, and I think we should make fun of everyone equally if we want to treat people equally. Now, I also think that there's like a time period where a certain group of people can be. It's like too soon.
Hmm.
It's like, hey, that hit too close to home. Don't say that, and I agree with that. But that's like the de-evolution, and then not the de-evolution. That's like a step to awareness. That's like your awareness, and then eventually you involve in being able to make fun of yourself. And so for the spiritual community, it's like, no, we're definitely there. We're at a point
Yeah.
where we can totally make fun of ourselves and be equal like everybody else, and it makes people feel more connected. Oh my God, they're human too. That's just what they're into. You know what I mean? Like you make fun of some. Maybe you got a friend and all they do is trade Pokemon cards, and you say to them, "Hey, you want to go out tonight? Or you just want to stay home and trade Pokemon cards?" And you do it in like this loving, fun way. And
Yeah.
the guy's like, "Ah, good one, all right." And they laugh with you because they're comfortable enough and confident enough in their self to have enough self esteem to be like, "All right, yeah, I know it's kind of crazy that I play with Pokemon cards all day. You can make fun of me for that." It's the same
Yeah.
thing with the spirit community and like and being gay or whatever it is. I think that it's like eventually like let's just accept who we are and make fun of each other for that and have fun with that.
I think once you hit that level of acceptance with anything, but like you hit pure acceptance of just what is, it becomes much easier to see the light in all that is as well.
Totally. It's
Like
mostly,
my first ayahuasca ceremony, I got to the jungle, sitting in the Maloka, and medicine wasn't really hitting me. And then once the medicine did hit me, I laughed for 2 hours straight. Like, did not fucking stop. Like gut wrenching laughter. The
beautiful.
more I would try to stop laughing, just the more I would keep laughing, and like I I was so confused and like almost mad because I'm like, this isn't what I came here for. Like I came here to
Sure.
fucking deal with my demons and shit. And I'm just stuck here laughing in this Maloka. And it was, kind of one of those realizations that like, oh, like I've been taking this shit way too seriously. Like I gotta chill.
Yeah. Healing.
And laughter was that medicine.
I find that the most and best profound healing by far, maybe there's exceptions, but probably not. Maybe I don't know. Is healing through joy and celebration.
Yeah. Bringing consciousness to the party.
Exactly. And
Who
party.
were who are some of your biggest influences, both spiritually and also musically, that have shaped you into who
Yeah.
you are?
Spiritually, I'd say Eckhart Tolle and Adyashanti. Those are kind of like the two names that stand out. There was a guy named Bentino Massaro who had a hit piece written about him. He's definitely a culty dude, but
Hmm.
he has some really powerful like things to share energetically that I think was supportive. Um, and then musically, all different phases of life, but I would say like the main ones over life have been like Paul Simon, Blink 182, Dead Mouse,
Nice.
Taking Back Sunday, Yonsei, Olafur Arnalds, Odessa, Bonobo, Tycho, Cone Sound.
Have you gotten the opportunity to work with like any of the people that you like really grew up admiring yet?
No,
No.
but I very much admire Chloe Closey and Alice Dream, and I've like played djembe for Closey at some of her shows before, and I have worked on a track with Alice Dream, um, but they were more newer people that I've been into. Obviously, Alice Dream took me on tour with him. That's how we got connected.
Hmm.
Um, he's a great guy. I haven't yet worked with like someone who. I mean, I've worked with the Chainsmokers, but like I used to live with them, like I said. But I'd say the biggest, or at least true from there. I'd say like I would actually say there hasn't really been like someone who I'm like absolutely huge fans of that I've worked
Hmm.
with. There's been a few singers who I've been like, oh my God, I love her voice. Like I love Cat Factor's voice from Gone Beyond. And she sang in one of my tracks. And I love Amethyst's voice. And she sang in one of my tracks that I just released too. Um, I love Kayla Diana's voice, and we've done a bunch of tracks together. I mean, there's lots of things I love about other people. I love Ruby Chase's songwriting, how she writes her music, and so I love working with her. I love Hyperlight's production. I love working with him. So there's like lots of people that I love working with, but no one who I kind of like really looked up to as a younger individual yet.
Yeah. No, it's all part of the evolution.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to do a track with Olafur Arnalds. Would love to do a track with Yonsei. I mean, that would just be phenomenal. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah. So this is a segment that I'm bringing into this podcast that I haven't done before, and this is inspired by it's something that my partner and I do at the end of each week, and it's called Rosebud Thorn. And so what it means is basically the rose is like what's alive for you right now that's like really awesome, you're really jazzed about. Then the thorn is like what's something that maybe you're struggling with at the moment, has been a little bit difficult for you to navigate. And then bud is what are you looking forward to in the future that's on the horizon for you. And so I'd love to open this up for you, and we'll start with the rose. So what's really alive for you today and lately that's
Yeah.
got you jazzed.
I would say there's like this energy of possibility and potential that it's a new level that has come alive for me. And I don't exactly know what it is that will connect me to that expansion. But I will say that it could be in the realm of social media. It could be in the realm of my unreleased music. It could be in the realm of playing some big shows. Although that one doesn't feel as strong right now, but I do hope that happens. Um, it could be in the realm of my kids' book I just wrote, my children's book. It could be in the realm of a course that I'm launching, about to launch. A guide to musicbusiness.com is I think where we're going to do that. Um,
Can you talk about the kids book a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the kids' book I wrote in college, it's called Nature Plays, um, and I just got it illustrated recently, and so we're talking to different people about publishing it, and I just feel like getting consciousness to kids is huge. So I'm excited about that, and yeah, it's a cool book. Kind of involves nature and kid and things like this. Um, yeah, I would just say that overall, though, the rose right now is my potential. is that's what's present for me right now, is really seeing that possibility.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to Thorn. What are some of the challenges or difficulties that you've been facing lately?
I would say um, solidifying my team and feeling really grounded in my team. It's like almost put together all the way, but not there yet. But almost, it will be soon, I'm hoping. And as a consequence of that, like, communicating my brand properly and just like how to execute the vision that we have. Thorn.
Have there been people on your team that you have been working with like since day one that are still with you now, or has it like just evolved a lot since you've started and as you've progressed?
It's evolved for sure. I mean, the person who's been with me the longest, his name's Aliwa. He was with me from the start. I guess he was with me from the start. And he's one of my mixing engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a couple different ones, and he's been with me there from the start. So he would be the guy, I guess, that's there from the start. But yeah, people for the most part, other than him, have kind of come in and out. Most of the people who've come in have stayed. Corey, who runs High Vibe Records, Spencer, my booking agent, Jordan Geometry is another guy that's kind of been in and out, helps me mix my music. Sean at Audible Oddities masters my music. He's been there for a minute. Irene and Aaron, who run High Vibe Fest, they've been for the past couple of years. But Oliver's been there for like 8 years or something. So he's got them all by like 5 years at least.
Yeah. And then so moving on to the bud is like, what is something tangible that you are looking forward to that is going to be happening at some point in the future?
I would say both of my unreleased albums. So one is a full album with Ruby Chase, which is
Nice.
unreleased, which we're kind of just waiting for the right time and label for. And then the other, which I'm probably even more excited about, is my cinematic electronic album, which is 18 tracks of just beauty, no bass, not even really down tempo, sort of house, sort of just kind of all over the place again. It's just a journey, but it's something that you could stream in the background passively,
Mm-hmm.
as there is kind of like a theme and a vibe to the album, and that I feel like is going to be sort of hopefully my breakthrough after the breakthrough, is kind of how I see it. So I'm hoping that some of this pop stuff is really like my breakthrough,
Mm-hmm.
breakthrough music, and then after that, it's kind of like, okay, that's my like signature album. You know, at least my first signature album after kind of I have a big enough following for people to enjoy that.
Hell yeah, man. Well, before we officially end, I guess, is there anything else that you would feel that you would like to share with anybody before we officially leave?
You know, I would say just keep following your heart and learn how to follow your heart and get good at it and heal through joy and love and alignment and harmony and whatever feels like the right thing to do.
I love it. Thank you, Equanimous, for coming on the podcast and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and taking us on this journey today. Very
For
much
sure.
appreciated, and
Yeah, thank you for
a lot of
having me.
love for you.
You as well. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you again to Equanimous for coming on the podcast and sharing your vibes with all of our listeners. Very much appreciated, and beautiful energy that you bring. So thank you again. That's all I got for this week. So if you're interested in collaborating or just want to shoot me a DM, please feel free to, or send me an email at tripsittingblog@gmail.com. See you next week.